Good morning. I want to talk a bit today about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and how it's going to be intertwined with this Uranus-Neptune-Pluto minor grand trine. So let me share my screen and we can get started. As usual, this just takes a few minutes. I have to get rid of panels that are in my way so I can see what I'm doing. And we're ready. So this is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and the Uranus-Neptune-Pluto minor grand trine. My thoughts for the mundane astrology special interest group, part 5. And my name is Christopher Benton. Okay, let's look first at this particular day, July 11th, 2025. On this day, the minor grand trine between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto was joined by Saturn, Venus, and the Moon. And this was also the day the new Superman movie was released. And the themes of truth, justice, and a more cosmic perspective characterized the message of this configuration. So I think the themes of that movie say a lot about what this particular configuration is about. And also that this configuration is going to be intertwined with the upcoming exact conjunction of Saturn and Neptune. Now, this Saturn, or I should say this Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, minor grand trine, mini grand trine, as some call it, it's going to last for a while, off and on. It's going to endure for a few years. It was particularly strong in August and September of 2025. It'll be very strong in July of 2026. It'll be strong again in June of 2027 and all the way to May of 2028. And here I have exact dates for when Uranus will trine Pluto. There are going to be 5 exact trines over the next few years. And there are going to be 5 exact sextiles of Uranus to Neptune over the next few years from 2025 through 2027. And then we have several exact sextiles of Neptune to Pluto in the years to come. Now, it's not just these aspects, but also midpoints that are going to be involved. And we have had Neptune conjunct the Uranus-Pluto midpoint going back to at least 2023, using a fairly small orb here. And this occurred again in 2024 and in 2025. Also, it will be fairly strong in 2026 around the time of the February 20th Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So even if Uranus and Pluto are a little bit out of the orb for what I'm using for trine, the energies of Uranus and Pluto are still being funneled through Neptune and Aries. And we will have Neptune conjunct that Uranus-Pluto midpoint again in 2027 and for a little bit of 2028. So those energies have already been commingling and they will be getting stronger. Now, what do we expect from the Uranus-Neptune-Pluto double sextile trine, or minor grand trine, or mini grand trine, as various people have called it? We have Uranus in Gemini, at least after, I believe, April 25th of 2026. We'll have Neptune in Aries, Pluto in Aquarius. And I suspect that some individuals will experience greater enlightenment. Those that are very spiritually attuned will really get a boost at this time. And most people will find themselves at least opening up to new perspectives and a more global or cosmic point of view. And we're already seeing this politically in America, where people are beginning to question some of the conservative views they had and are breaking with the current leadership. In particular, expect rapid growth of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotechnology, and information technology as a result of Pluto and Aquarius. Humanity is going to get see a big boost in technology. There will also be an explosion of inventions and creative thought thanks to Uranus and Gemini. And new visions are being brought into physical reality as a result of Neptune and Aries. Also, Aries has a lot to do with independence. More and more people will probably be thinking independently, thinking for themselves, and finding their own inner spirituality rather than following some ancient group in various ways. People will discover their own spiritual worth and a spirit within. Now, this Uranus, Neptune, Pluto double sextile trine, minor grand trine, it's going to endure off and on for the next few years. And a similar Uranus, Neptune, Pluto double sextile trine happened in 476 CE in the Common Era. And the orb here was about 5 degrees that I used, and it endured for a few years. This is the previous instance that I was able to find of this particular kind of minor grand trine lasting a few years. And 476 CE was the year which saw the fall of the Western Roman Empire and the beginning of the Middle Ages in Europe. However, the first 500 years of those Middle Ages are known as the Dark Ages. But also in 476 CE, Aryabhata was born. He was the first great mathematician, astronomer of the classical age of Indian mathematics and astronomy. And a couple of years after this date, the first Shinto shrines appeared in Japan in 478 CE. So one of the things that can happen when we have a Uranus, Neptune, Pluto minor grand trine with Neptune at the midpoint is there can be new forms of spirituality that emerge. Okay, on January 29th of the year 476, we had a Uranus, Neptune, Pluto minor grand trine lasted for a few years, and it began with Saturn conjunct Pluto. Now, those are two very heavy malefic influences, particularly when they combine death, transformation, Pluto, restriction, Saturn. Thus, it's not surprising that this cycle was followed by 500 years by the Dark Ages. But on August 1st of 2025, the current cycle of strong minor grand trines involving Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto that will last off and on for a few years, and that began in the summer of 2025. This cycle began not with Saturn and Pluto conjunct, as was the case in 426 of the Common Era, but it had Saturn and Neptune in conjunction. And thus we can expect the theme of the dissolution of structures to dominate perhaps for several hundred years following this conjunction. A lot of old ideologies are going to go away. New ideologies are going to replace them. And as I keep saying, those new ideologies could be good or bad. But with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, there is going to be a focus on the individual and independence, individual action. And this is why I think that more and more people are going to be looking to their own spirituality within rather than the old established religions. And in particular, with Uranus and Gemini, there are going to be lots of inventions taking place. With Pluto in Aquarius, there will be new technologies, but there are also probably going to be some rebellions. Power is shifting from individuals to the masses at this point in time. And everything is focused through Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Okay. Now, all of this is going to lead up to what the late, great mundane astrologer Andre Barbeau felt would be the most harmonious day of the century, July 21st, 2026. And on this date, we have so many exact harmonious aspects, exact to the degree. Pluto at 4 degrees, Neptune at 4 degrees, Uranus at 4 degrees, Jupiter at 4 degrees, just sextile, sextile, sextile. And then we have Chiron at 0 degrees, South Node at 0 degrees, the Moon at 0 degrees, the North Node at 0 degrees, forming a very perfect mystic rectangle. Let me go back here for a second. Just want to check a few dates. Yeah, everything's looking good so far. No typos, such as I occasionally make. So, getting back to this day, it's not just this day, it's going to be pretty much the whole month of July. A little bit more disharmony at the beginning because Jupiter will be making a rather strong sextile to Chiron at the beginning, which could result in some wounding. That fades after the first week. But throughout the month, we have an extraordinary amount of harmony, and this date is just the capstone. This is going to be a very important time to be engaged in inner meditation. If you are a spiritually involved, spiritually centered individual, a person who has found inner spirituality, then your prayers, your meditations can be more powerful at this time and during this month, because the doors to these higher perspectives are opening up. They will be wide open. So, I don't know exactly how this day will change humanity, but it is reminiscent of a period of conjunctions long ago between 577, 574, before the Common Era, what some just call BC. We had a remarkable series of conjunctions of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto that were followed by the birth of Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism, the golden age of Greek philosophy, the writing of some of the Upanishads, and the writing of the Torah during the Babylonian exile for the Jewish people. This is the time the Torah was stitched together and put into written form. Now, because there are so many exact sextiles on this date, July 21st, 2026, this configuration will likely energize the corresponding sixth harmonic chart. And in this chart, the conjunction of outer planets in Aries suggests the birth of something new and transcended that will be assisted by Saturn and Gemini, making a strong sextile, and Venus and Sagittarius making a trine. So, in other words, clever construction Saturn and a beautiful meeting of the minds are going to predominate on this day. Now, if we do take a look at what discordant aspects we have in this harmonic chart, well, we do have a Saturn square Sun. We have Mars in opposition to Mercury, a bit of a square to Chiron. We have the Moon sort of off by itself, making some semi-squares to points in Libra. So, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, these are all personal planets. So, at the surface level of our consciousness, where we have these faster moving planets that deal with the problems of the moment, we may feel that things are a little bit more discordant, a little bit more tense. There may be feelings of aggression, feelings of restriction. Moon and Scorpio. Some people will be immersed in their own desires and what they want, and perhaps their own wounding in some ways. But underneath that all, greater harmony is forming. So if you focus on just what's happening on the surface, then you may see more dissension, more problems. Don't let that distract you. Go within, find your true self deep within, that still small voice, that silence within, and that is where things are going to be opening up for you to these higher realities and these higher energies. An expansion of consciousness represented by Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and also by Saturn. And whereas Mercury represents our left brain, our verbal brain, this is where all the arguments and thoughts that this isn't working right or that's wrong, this is wrong, that's where all that will be taking place. But Venus represents our right brain, our non-verbal brain, our sense of what is good and what is bad, our values. And it's going to be through our right brains that we can get in touch with these more transcendent energies that are going to be particularly present on this day at this time. So, just something to think about as we move into 2026. There's going to be some very harmonious things going on, very momentous, and this kind of minor grand trine can also be a signal that old empires and old ways are going to fall, and that just reinforces the transition we're going through due to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And these two things are going to be working together to create a new world and a new reality for all of us. Okay, and I believe that is it. So, I've stopped sharing my screen. I'm back. I hope you found that interesting and in some ways inspiring. And I hope you engage in some deep meditation and go to yourself. Find yourself within. That core of your being is where you can find your inner spirituality, and what lifts you up could, through our connection with everything, lift everyone else up simultaneously. So, just a few positive thoughts and things to ponder as we move into 2026. But for now, I'll just say so long and be well.